What is going on, Life Fitness Coaches? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives, Make Money on the Trainer podcast. It's your boy, Brian Mark, and in today's episode, we are joined by my beautiful wife. So in today's episode, we are going to be discussing partners. We're going to be discussing mood. We're going to be discussing energy, and we're going to be discussing how you show up on a day-to-day basis. Because I'm under the belief, and I know that Kirsten and I share similar beliefs because we're married. So I'm under the belief that in a relationship, there's two things, right? There's three things. I'm working on myself, you're working on yourself, and then together we work on the relationship, which seems good in theory, right? Because if I'm always working on myself, I'm trying to make myself a better person, more positive, more optimistic, more grateful, more fit. If you're always working on yourself, you're trying to make yourself more positive, more optimistic, more grateful, whatever. And then we're working on the relationship together. That seems like it makes sense logically on paper.
Yeah.
But then we have human error, or just like we have shit that happens to us on a day-to-day basis. We have things that stress us out. And so today's podcast, I think, is about what do we do in situations where like one of us is feeling it, the other person's not, which is the first conversation. And the second conversation I think we should have is how do you get yourself to not be like having off days so that you can show up better for yourself and your partner?
Less off days. And I think too, if you're watching or listening to this episode, that this doesn't just have to be like a romantic relationship. Obviously, we're going to do that because it's a great example. But this is just also not allowing like your grumpy mother to affect your energy, not allowing your friends that are maybe having an off day to affect your day. So realistically, just being able to like keep your energy as your energy and not allow the external circumstances, people, places, things to affect that.
I like that. I also want to touch on that because everybody here has heard the classic saying, you're a result of your environment, right? We've all heard that like cheesy, like, you know, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, la, 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 la. And I do think that that idea plays a role in personal development, especially when we're kids, right? Like you don't get to choose the family that you're born into. You're literally just born, just like that. Happens that easily. That's how women have babies. And then once you're born into the family. And if like you're born into a Chinese family, you learn Chinese. If you're born into a family that's in poverty, you learn that. If you're born into a wealthy family, you learn that. So you don't get to choose a lot of your, circumstances and upbringings and environment as you're growing up. So I think a lot of people use that to say like, I'm a result of my environment. But then you turn into a fucking adult. And I think as an adult that is fully capable of making their own choice for how they want to show up, how they want to be on a day-to-day basis, what kind of mood they want to have. I think as an adult, it's a lot less about your result of your environment. And it's a lot more about how do you want to show up as a person?
Like you're a result of how you respond to your environment because...
Well, that's good. You're a result of how you respond to your environment. That's good. That's a writer downer.
So that's my book.
You're a result of how you respond to your environment. That's
smarter than I look, bitches. Smarter than I look. You're a result. I'm writing that down.
Has to take a break to like take notes on herself, what she just said.
But I think that we all have situations that could potentially trigger us. And I'm like balls deep in every Louise Hay book that I can be right now. And her perspective on life is one that I am so inspired by because she went through so much at a young age. And even the things that so many people would spend their entire life being a victim about, she says, I was an energetic match for everything that I attracted in that time and space, right? So I think you being a result of how you respond to your environment is sometimes our environments aren't optimal. Sometimes there's things like your story, always as you tell me a story about little baby Brian and all the things he went through. It makes me so sad because if you see a picture of him, one, it's cute now that he trimmed his beard, but there was nothing that you could do. You really were a victim in that time and space because from a very young age, you're supposed to be taken care of and loved. And like, remember at Big White when we saw how Julia and Cole were with Kate and you were like, I didn't get that as a kid. You are supposed to get that, but your parents are victims of victims of victims. And it's just this like generational curse that's being passed down. But then you get to a space where you take full ownership of all your life. And not even that, like I think that I'm more angry at some of the stuff that happened to you when you were younger than you are now. Because you're like, I'm Brian Mark, and the reason I am the way that I am today, the reason why I'm resilient, the reason why like I'm this millionaire in my early 30s is because of the way that I started to respond to the things that happened to me.
I have a secret that I'm going to share.
Oh, yeah.
I have a secret that I'm going to share. Guys, I used to look at the things that happened to me, and I used to look at, my past and the fact that I got kicked out of my mom's house when I was 8, and the fact that I didn't meet my dad until I was 26, and the fact that like every relationship I got into, I like ruthlessly sabotaged. I used to view all of those things as negative, as they were like, oh my God, like I can't believe my mom abandoned me, and I can't believe my dad never showed up, and I can't believe I had to go through all that poverty. Can't believe I had to go through a drug addiction, live in a trailer park. Like I used to view it as negative. And now that I am blessed with the awareness of the only reason that I'm fucking the person that I am today is because I went through all those things. Like I'm a leader for, I've worked with over 10,000 personal trainers that have trusted me with their business. There's no way I could be a leader of men at that level if I didn't go through the shit that I went through when I was a kid.
Agreed.
Because my mom had me when she was 17. My dad wasn't around. By the time I was like 7, 8 years old, I was protecting my baby brother and sister from our abusive stepdads.
Yeah.
So like, I literally like was forced into adulthood. And I used to view that as like, oh my God, like that's such a bad thing. But now I'm like, obviously like that stuff's really hard. And also those were the blessings that led me to the person that I am today. And like, I think that anybody listening to this podcast right now can just make the decision that like from this point moving forward, you're not going to be a result of your story, your environment, your circumstances. You're going to be a result of your decision on how you want to show up as a person on a day-to-day basis. Because I think, then this is my belief, and this is where I'm going to get Kirsten and all hippy dippy on you. Louise, hey, love life. I'm also going to do that. I think that anything that happens to you in your reality is simply a reflection of what's going on inside of your consciousness.
Yes. So
the world is your mirror.
Yes.
Right. And so if you're dealing with a lot of adversity, setbacks, frustrations, fears, like all this shit that's happening to you, clients dropping off, the content's not hitting, blah, blah, blah. That's just a result of the fact that you don't have that stuff inside of your mind. So you've got a scattering consciousness, you've got a negative consciousness, you've got a negative mind. And so you're attracting negative things. And so when I see something happening outside of me that's in my reality that's negative, I, quote unquote, negative, I don't go to my reality. I'm like, I don't try to change it. I change me. I change my thought process. I change my mindset. I change my habits around mindset. I change the way that I show up and how I deliver my own self-care to myself. So it's like, I just try not to get affected by things that used to happen, because the things that happened to me were actually blessings. And then the things that are happening in my life right now, I don't view them as negative. I view them as reflections of like things that I need to work on inside of my mind.
Well, and I think just from like an outsider's perspective too, like obviously, sorry, choking on my steak, eating while I podcast, multitasking. I never hear you say it's not fair. Like when the gym shut down, it would be really easy to say, hey, you know what? It's really not fair. Why me? Why? Like we've spent so much time pouring money into this gym and then just to have it like ripped away from us, right? You never fall into that victim mentality. So I think something that would be of service to the people that are watching or listening to this podcast is I feel like a lot of people watching probably are in victim mentality right now. And I bet you there's a few people listening that are like, it's different. You have millions of dollars. You have this. So at what point do you think that you shifted from learning from everything that happened in your past and stepping into being a leader versus being frustrated and angry? Because I actually think that your frustration and your anger towards your past drove you. Because you even say, like with exes, it's like, watch me. You're never going to forget me. So that like anger that you felt, I'm also going to assume like drove you to be a better person, but it only drives you so far to when it's tiresome and it's draining on your energy and it's affecting your day-to-day life because you're just still so angry.
I like to pull energy from everywhere. And so like I grab energy from wherever it's present. So as an example, like when I was an addict and I literally hated myself, I pulled energy from the fact that I literally hated myself. I was like, I hate the person that I'm showing up as. I hate the person that I'm showing up to my grandma as. I hate how I'm showing up for my fitness goals. I hate how I'm showing up for my business. And so I worked on myself because I hated myself. I was like, I hate this person. I'll never be this person again. I'm going to transform my life. And then as I got more fit, more healthy, et cetera, I started to realize that that energy was no longer productive. And so like I did the work to change me based off the energy that was inside of me. And then once I changed me, then I changed the energy that was inside of me. And I was like, I'm going to, I should work on myself because I love myself, not because I hate myself. So I think that like, I think you can go inside out and outside in, if that makes sense. Because like, even when I built my business, like you said it perfectly, like every time me and Kirsten had this conversation on the weekend, I'm like, every time I went through a major breakup in my life, I literally said to myself, I'm like, I'm going to make sure that that person never fucking forgets my name ever. So like the first major breakup that I went through was, when I was 2015 and I hadn't started my business yet. And as soon as I went through the breakup, I was like, I'm going to hit $10,000 a month in the next 4 months. And I did it. Second major breakup, I was in 2018. I had Aesthetic Nation and I was like, I'm going to start Pizza Domination. I'm going to make sure that like nobody ever forgets my name. And that's the biggest regret that I'll ever have. And then as I built the business, it no longer became about that, but I just used the energy and then I transformed it. So it wasn't present inside of me. So I used it until it was no longer useful. Then I discarded it.
And I think the difference between like say someone that says they want something, but isn't changing, says they hate where they're at, hate their body, hate all these things, but year after year, they're in the same place. And this is just something I thought of. Would be like, I don't think they actually hate themselves. I think they're just okay with themselves. Because whenever I actually hated myself, like looked in the mirror and was like, New Year's, that one year, I was like, I genuinely like cannot stand the person that I was that night. I hate that version of me. And it literally like speed rocketed me to the best version of myself where I was running and I was using that energy because I actually genuinely hated myself. But I think there's a lot of people that are overweight. They don't like the way they look, but they're okay with it. Because if you actually genuinely can't stand where you are, like, isn't the natural thing to be like, fuck, even like it's going to be more painful staying like this. So I think a lot of people are overweight and simply okay with it. They don't like it, but they don't fucking hate it. Because if you hate something, why are you allowing it?
Also, if you're listening to this podcast, I just want to apologize because this conversation went off and it's not about what we said it was going to be about, but that's completely fine. Because we're here now. We're just going with it.
Because I think that I think we can circle.
Yeah. So like, if you're listening to this podcast for the promise of the podcast, I apologize because we're here now and we're staying. I think that it comes from this place of, and I like hate to say this out loud, but I think a lot of people feel this. I think the reason that a lot of people stay stuck in the exact same place and they never actually make a change is due to the fact that they don't actually believe that they ever will change. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody's like, we know people in our lives that are like overweight, struggling with their weight, and they never change. And it's like, obviously they don't like being out of shape and having no breath walking up the stairs. But I think that the reason that they don't change their life is because they don't actually believe that they can. And so they just stay in the same place. And so they can't tap into the self-hatred to like change their life because they don't believe it'll ever change. And so they almost like are just like, whatever, this is just what it is. This is just how it is.
They create their life in this comfort zone. So they find things that they like doing within this comfort zone. I really like sitting on the couch and eating pizza on a Friday night. So within this comfort zone, I don't like my body, but I like sitting and watching TV and eating a large pizza. So within this comfort zone, they start doing more of these things that are negatively impacting their health, but that they like. And they don't do a lot of walking up the stairs, right? Like they don't walk up the stairs a lot and they'll avoid it at any cost they can. So the things that kind of show them that they are, if we're using like unhealthy or broke or whatever it is, they don't do them because it's going to create that feeling of, I don't like where I am, but I really like where I am when I'm sitting on the couch and eating this pizza within my comfort zone. It feels exciting. It feels good.
So like there's two things. One is if you're listening to this right now and you genuinely want to change your life and you want to become a fucking better person, I think that it's like, you actually have to believe that you can fucking change. That's number one. I think that's why it's important to find people that you are inspired by. The definition of inspiration is to grab like motivation and inspiration from within. Inspiration. And I think the way that you do that is you find somebody that you can see yourself in.
Yeah.
Right. You find like somebody that's like walked the path that you've walked that can like, and if they've walked that path, I can see myself in that path and I can also become that. And then when you have that inspiration, like I think you do need to lean on self-hatred at times to actually make that change. Now, let's flip this back to the couples conversation because I think this is really important. What do you do if you are the person in your relationship that is doing that?
Yeah.
You are going to the gym, you're trying to work on yourself, you're trying to better yourself, you're trying to better your life, you're trying to better your mindset, but your partner is not on that vibe. Your partner is not on that journey.
Yeah.
And because of that, they might be frustrated, they might be stressed out, they might not be working on their health, they might be like overweight, whatever. Like, how do you balance it when one person's doing the work and the other person isn't?
I think like you can't, in my personal perspective, like you can't balance that forever because it ends up being a game of like core values, not that. Do you know what I mean? Like if you stop going to the gym, we've talked about this a lot and doing all those things, like one of my core values is someone who's willing to work on themselves. But if you're not willing to put in the work and put in the reps in the gym, then you're not aligning with my core values as a human being. So I think there's certain spaces where you have to give grace if there's health issues or like a hard time where you just can't simply like you need the space to like to heal. But I also think that you can't just play the balance game forever. If one person is constantly going down this path and the other person's going down this path, you're never going to meet again at the path of alignment. Like, and I think there's like my path of alignment and your path of alignment, and then there's our path of alignment. Like, despite maybe a few differences, I think we're heading in the same direction. We want the same things right now. We want a baby. You want to make $15 million. Like, I want to build my business. Like, and together we want to build an empire. We want to start like impacting more people. We want to speak on more stages. And like, our vision together is like very strong. But say I started to slip away from that and I started to not want the same things that you wanted, like the big things.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and people think we're fucking dickheads because it's the same thing. Like, if like the person this is where I need to flip the conversation on its head for a second, because Kirsten and I fell in love with each other because we were both heading in the same direction. We both wanted the same things.
Yeah.
Right. And so for those couples, and so we'll revisit the conversation being in a second, because I want to talk to the couples. Cole talked about this the other day and it fucking hit hard. He's like, you have to understand, when you're in a relationship, like let's say you get into a relationship with a partner and both of you guys aren't really working on your goals. You're just kind of like coexisting together. You both go to work, you both have jobs, but like you haven't really like committed to anything together, but you like really love each other. Like when you guys fall in love, they're falling in love with the person that you are right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like they're falling in love with that version of you. So if like you go out and party every weekend and that's what you do, that's how you celebrate, like they're falling in love with that version of you. He's like, so one of the things we talked about on one of our coaching calls, he's like, if you are changing your version of the person that they fell in love with, you have to give them grace and you have to be compassionate because you're changing the dynamic that started the relationship in the first place. So I was like, that's fucking powerful as shit. But like, so I think there's two things, right? Either you're a result of your environment or your environment is a result of you. So either I'm impacting the environment and I'm helping it change, or environment is impacting me and causing me to change. I think those are the only two options, because like if two people coexist in an environment and both of them have like extremely different core values, they can't exist in the same environment for a long enough period of time if they don't find ways to like connect and like stay aligned and stay like, you know what I mean? Like you have to find ways to symbiotically like help each other. So I think that if you're the person in the relationship that's deciding that you want to make a change, that you want to level up your life, how do you not let your partner affect your mood / your journey / your like lifestyle that you're trying to create? Is you just be the light. That's the only solution, is to be the light in the relationship. And like, if you're the partner that's going to the gym, that's working on themselves, it's like working on their mindset, like be the light. One of my clients, Eric, was just finished a 12-week mindset coaching program with me. And he was saying that because he's worked on his mindset for the last 12 weeks and he's literally completely transformed who he is as a person, he was saying that his girlfriend that lives in the house with him, she started to make more money in her business and she started to show up with more positive energy because she felt his presence. She's like, I just felt how he showed up. Whereas I think that a lot of people, what they do if they're in a relationship and one person's like, quote unquote, bringing the other person down, is they're like, you need to change. You need to go to the gym. You need to do these things.
You almost operate from a place of judgment and I'm better than you are, right? So it's like, you need to do this because this is what's, like,
but just be the light. And like,
but what about so just be the light, right? But I think sometimes people don't want to see the light. And so they're like keeping the light off on purpose. Like they're keeping themselves in the dark. So I agree, be the light, but there also has to be, like, I think we've talked about this before, like that end point that like, I'm like, it's been 2 years and I've been the light and like, you don't want to see the light, right?
See, it's like, I honestly think that, I don't know if that's a part of the conversation, because I don't think people have spent long enough actually doing the work on themselves and also trying to work on the relationship. Because like, imagine if me and you just called it quits when we had a fucking fight. You're like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, well, I'm the light and you're not, so fuck you. So it's like, when both of us are in a relationship and we're connected, I don't think that the immediate solution is to fucking cut off. It's like, I'm going to be the light and I'm going to hope that you follow in my footsteps. And I'm just going to show up with love and compassion until you're feeling better. But like, I don't think the immediate solution is just like, bye-bye. I think it's like, let's be the light and let's be the example. And like, my definition of be the light is like, do not allow things to affect you at all. Like, I'm trying to get to a place in my life where like, I completely eliminate self-doubt. Like I completely eliminate fear, where I completely eliminate anything triggering me at all.
Externally can affect the way that I feel internally. The places that
to me is being the light. Whereas like, I think a lot of people are like, quote unquote, being the light. They go to the gym, they do a 10-minute meditation in the morning. And then they call that the light. Like, I don't think that's the light. I think be the light, be the example is like when you can actually get yourself to a place where you are unaffected by the external environment. You just show up as a powerful person every day.
And that ties into what we were going to the podcast on, when you are tapped into that energy where you can wake up and someone could cut you off or like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, and you're able to just be the light, and like, it's not even about self-doubt. It's just about like feeling good on a day-to-day basis. Then you're not affected by your partner having a bad day. You're able to offer compassion. You're able to have empathy. You're able to give them a pat on the back, but it's not like you're missing the gym, so I'm going to miss the gym. You're sitting and watching Netflix all day because you're sad, so I'm going to sit and watch Netflix all day. And I feel like we've done a really great job the last couple of years specifically of, if you're not going to the gym, I still am. And I used to be really bad for that. And vice versa. If I'm not going to the gym, you still are. If I'm having a bad day and you're having a good day, that doesn't mean that you're going to have a bad day, right? Like we very much so have our separate life and our separate energy. And then together we've learned how to navigate different, like how I emotionally respond to things, how you emotionally respond to things, and learn to just be able to keep ourselves in a good energetic space despite how the other partner's feeling. And I think that all comes down to just self-development and working on yourself and understanding the blueprint to your best life.
I think it's
your best self.
I think it's all self-development. And I think that, to me, how do you not let your partner ruin your mood is the same answer to how do you not let anybody ruin your mood.
Exactly.
As you just decide how you're going to show up and you just be that at all times.
Perfect example is this morning when I had the best morning. Like, I had the best morning. We woke up to our alarm, like, gave you a big hug in the morning. I need like love from Brian in the morning. So even when I walked in, you're like, where are you going? And you gave me a hug. That was like thumbs up in my morning. And I went to the gym and I did my momentum call and I had the best morning. It was one of the best calls I've done in the group, like in a very long time. I felt so connected to it. And then I left and this guy cut me off, right? I told you this story. He got really angry. Honestly, he like got out of his car. He said I cut him off, but potato. And typically, if I had had a morning where I slept in late, I didn't do my morning stuff, I didn't give you a hug, I didn't do my own workout, I literally would have been like, fucking Mondays, blah, blah, blah. Me and Haley were laughing on the way to school because I was like, you got to think about how miserable that guy is. Like, he's scrawny little dude storms out and he's so fucking angry. I'm like, he's just miserable. It doesn't need to affect me. She's like, let's just commit to having the best day ever. That would have thrown me off like a year ago, or that would have thrown me off today had I not taken time to like nurture myself this morning. Right. And it's the same with you. Like, if you wake up and even like on our Calgary day, right, where we didn't get your morning routine, and you're like, oh, my back is starting to hurt. And it hasn't been hurting because you skipped your stretch, you skipped the nurturing of yourself. And so when we don't nurture ourselves, that shows up in our day, in the way that we respond, in the way that our body feels. If we wake up, we stretch our body, we write our affirmations, we connect to our affirmations, we get ourselves to a place where we feel good, then the things that happen outside of us, whether it's our partner or a fucking dickbag that gets out of his car and tells you that you cut him off, it doesn't matter because we've already nurtured ourselves to a place where those things won't affect us. Right? Feel it?
I feel that.
You love it?
I feel that.
Are you feeling it?
I feel that.
Yeah.
I think that there's like, so many people are so concerned about what the other people around them are doing or saying.
Yes.
And it's like, I ask Kirsten how extreme I am with this. I don't care.
He does. I care more than he does. Like, I do not. Girl
I do not care. Somebody calls me. They're like, "Did you hear?" I'm like, "Don't tell me. Don't care."
You got
don't care.
Juicy details. I do, and I don't.
Like, I don't care. Don't tell me.
I've never seen anything like that. I have
not interested. Yeah. And the reason I'm not interested is because I refuse to let anything into my psyche that will affect my energy. Ever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I get a fucking 1-star review on Google. Somebody tells me my beard sucks and I look like shit. Done. Don't care.
I do think it would be funny to do a podcast on the shit that people say about us. Because like,
no. See, I don't care.
Do that.
No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I don't care. I just don't care.
Like a sense of fulfillment when I like made like the sweater I made. Don't be a Rodney. Made $1,500.
I know. I just like refuse to let anything into my psyche that fucks with my psychology, including that.
Yeah.
Other people's opinions have nothing to do with me. Other people's moods have nothing to do with me. Other people's perceptions on life have nothing to do with me.
Yeah. I will say I respect that, but I also think there's different perspectives and different ways of like, look at how many religions there are. There's so many people that have found this like peace in this religion that's completely different than the other person that's found peace. So the way that like I approach life and the way that you approach life and the things that we choose to digest is completely different. But as long as we are both in a good energetic space, then that's all that matters, right?
I agree with that.
Because it is completely different. So I'll never stop watching Love is Blind. I love a little juice sometimes.
Never.
Ever.
Never.
I love it.
Never.
I like it.
So hopefully this podcast was helpful. I know we went on a little bit of a tangent in regards to, we started talking about personal development and it kind of went down the hole of that. And like, guys, I think that that's the fucking secret sauce. Everybody always asks me like, do you have like, what's your biggest tip for success for business? I'm like, dude, develop yourself. If you just develop yourself and you get confident and you get like certain and you get like full of faith and you get full of gratitude and you just don't let things affect you. It's like other people's shit doesn't fucking affect you. It's like, and yes, when you're in a relationship, obviously that can be harder to maintain because your partner's around you at all times. But like, I just refuse to allow anything to drag my energy down. I will be compassionate. I'll be loving. I'll be supportive, and I'll pour from a full cup because I've already filled my own. But I'm not going to let ruin my day. It's just not going to happen.
Preach it, baby. And I love that. Preach it. 100%.
Preach it, baby.
Preach it, baby. Preach it.
That is it. That is all. Where do they find you?
They can find me at The Real Kristen Mark on IG and Kristen Mark across all platforms. But where can they find you?
Brian Mark on YouTube. We just hit 11,000 subscribers. What's up?
That's so great.
Change Lives, Make Money on the Internet podcast and The Real Brian Mark on Instagram. Peace, love, protein. Have the best day of your entire life. Deuces.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Hopefully you got some value. If you did, and you want to learn more about how me and my team can help you scale your online fitness business to $10,000 a month, DM me 10K on Instagram at TheRealBrianMark for more information, and I'll reach out to you to see if I can help you grow an online coaching business.